Hello everybody, this is the Pocket Passer. I'm your host Randy White. I hope all of you are having a fantastic day. I know I am. I went to see the Green Bay Packers game this weekend.
Packers win! Go Packers!
And I just want to kind of touch base and talk about what I saw in that game, how I feel about both teams that played in that game, both the Packers and the Cowboys, how I feel about both of them moving forward, having seen the game in person, which is really just an awesome experience that I've had the privilege to do a few times the last several years. Started going in 2017. I went to the Packers-Saints game the week after Rodgers broke his collarbone, and then 2018 I went to the Week 1 Sunday Night Football game, Packers-Bears, where the Bears were winning 20-0. Rodgers came back from his knee injury after halftime and led them to a comeback win 24-23.
Surveying, fires, that's caught. Randall Cobb into Chicago territory. Randall Cobb inside the 20-yard line. Randall Cobb is going to score.
Then 2019, early in the season, they played the Vikings at Lambeau. I watched them beat the Vikings 21-16. After that, a little bit of a hiatus. Went to see the Packers last year against the Bengals in Cincinnati. Since I live in the area, so got to see them win that game in overtime. That was a fun experience. Then got to go back to Lambeau last year, late in the season, after Rodgers came back from his little COVID stint, and Packers won that game 17-0 over Seattle. It was also Russell Wilson's first game back from injury. And then this year, getting to see the Packers snap their 5-game losing streak in a huge win against the Dallas Cowboys, where I was really impressed about a lot of things. And in other news involving the Packers, they have released wide receiver Amari Rodgers.
This ball is loose.
He was a third-round pick out of Clemson last year for us. This was his second season in the league. He had 8 career catches and 7 career fumbles. Really kind of a disastrous time that he had in Green Bay. So I'm not one of those guys that wants to hate on players completely, so obviously I hope he's able to find success somewhere else. That success was not going to be found in Green Bay. It was time to turn him loose and see what we can do to fill an empty roster spot. But just really bad performances from Amari Rodgers week after week. He fumbled the football when we had the momentum against Dallas. This week it was 14-14. Packers drive to midfield, punt it, then the Cowboys pin deep. They have to punt from inside their own end zone, and we have an opportunity to start our drive at right around midfield, and Amari Rodgers coughs the ball up. Cowboys recover, they go down, score, make it 21-14, and for a while it felt like that game was out of reach until the Packers were able to seize back momentum. They got a huge score on a 4th and 7 to Christian Watson, who had a huge day.
Touchdown! Watson again!
Christian Watson started the day with 2 drops. He was targeted 8 times, caught 4 of those passes. First 2 targets were drops on 2nd down and 5. They did play action. Had Christian Watson open over the middle on a dig route. He could not hang on to that. And then on 3rd down, they went back to Watson, which I like that decision from Rodgers to go back to Christian Watson, because you're trying to build some confidence with your young guy after he makes a bad play. He's unable to come up with that ball as well. It was a little bit of a harder catch, but nonetheless, not able to get it done. Green Bay then trots out their field goal unit to kick a field goal that is out of Mason Crosby's range at this point in his career, and it looked like the whole operation was kind of sloppy. I mean, the kick had no chance. The moment it left his foot, there was no way that was going through the uprights, and Dallas went up 7-0. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to be really happy with you if you're a Packers fan, and conversely, there's a ton of stuff to be very, very concerned about if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. Dallas Cowboys were not able to be very consistent in the run. They showed some success in the run game and then would immediately shoot themselves in the foot with a poor play. And Dak Prescott, this is the most important part. Dak Prescott looked very, very pedestrian against a Packers defense that has had some bright spots, but at the same time, it's not some lights-out defense, especially missing their number 1 pass rusher in Rashawn Gary. Dak he was mostly protected fairly well. That actually went for both quarterbacks. I feel like the offensive lines did a pretty good job all night of opening run lanes in the running game and then also pass protection. For the most part, there were a couple times where Rodgers on key plays was sacked instantly. I think that happened once or twice, but for the most part, the offensive line performed well, held their blocks, and gave Rodgers time. And I felt like the Cowboys offensive line did a similar thing. They gave Dak time most of the time. There were times where the Green Bay defense was able to get in his face and they forced incompletions where he couldn't step into the throw. This is true. But all in all, very disappointing performance from Dak Prescott. Not disappointing for me, but if you're a Cowboys fan, there's a lot to be very concerned about. They had a chance to put the Packers away. The Packers were floundering down 7-0, and Rodgers had just fumbled the ball on a sack, and you got a chance to go up 14-0 on Green Bay early, and Dak Prescott throws a really bad interception in the end zone and gives Green Bay life. Green Bay goes down, scores, and then Dak Prescott once again throws another very bad ball, again over the middle of the field to Rudy Ford. Rudy Ford had 2 interceptions where Dak just threw the ball right at him. And Green Bay went up 14-7 then. Dak Prescott was able to lead some very good drives, but at the same time, the turnovers undoubtedly cost them that game, along with questionable decision-making, like their 4th down attempt on overtime. If I'm in that situation, I'm kicking the field goal, I'm going up by 3, I'm forcing Green Bay to score, which I know it's something they did on 2 drives in the 4th quarter, but given who they have offensively, I'm going to say, hey, our defense can go win it with a field goal lead, or at the very worst, hold them to a field goal, and our offense can have a chance. They didn't do that. They played conservative. They went for the field. They didn't play conservative. They went hyper-aggressive and failed. Pressure got to Dak Prescott, and they could not get it done. And Green Bay took care of business on their drive, got right down the field into field goal range, and gave Mason Crosby a chip shot to hit through the uprights. So that's really the overview there of that Packer game, which is at receivers. Christian Watson, especially since Romeo Doubs is out with a high ankle sprain, Christian Watson showed by far the most promise he showed in any game because he was able to bounce back from his bad drops and then make some huge plays. The fact of the matter is Green Bay does not win that game without Christian Watson, despite the fact that he did drop a touchdown pass on a beautifully thrown slot fade ball and also dropped 2 crucial passes on the opening drive that would have been able to keep their drive going. Green Bay looked really good on that drive until those drops. And Rodgers also played a very, very good game. Really 2 mistakes from Rodgers. The fumble on that sack, and then he missed a throw on a 3rd down, and they came back right back on 4th down and scored a touchdown where he threw a good ball. Christian Watson in stride, and he was able to do the rest, get into the end zone. So a lot of positive things to work with if you're a Green Bay fan. Again, offensive line improvement. D-Bach looks better. David Bakhtiari is playing better and better. And the defense was able to make some big plays when they needed to make big plays, although they struggled for kind of large chunks of the game. When they had to tighten up and get stops, they were able to do it against a good offense. And if you're a Cowboys fan, is Dak Prescott the guy? He played very, very poorly, and he's kind of just been one of those guys that from week to week, what guy are you going to get? Are you going to get the guy that leads the number 1 scoring offense like we got last year? Or are you going to get a guy that's just kind of, yeah, he can make some good throws, he can make some good plays, he can extend plays out of the pocket from time to time, but he can also make some crucial mistakes that cost you games, and he can just not make plays that are needed to be made to get things done. CeeDee Lamb looked spectacular. He was unguardable.
Fake it to him. Deep drop. Prescott lofting one. He's got it. Lamb gonna walk in. Touchdown, Dallas.
On Sunday, Jair Alexander really struggled to wrap him up on several different occasions, although Jair was able to make some of the bigger plays late in the game. CeeDee Lamb no doubt had his way. 11 catches, 150 yards. And at least 1 touchdown. It might have been 2 touchdowns. Very effective game from CeeDee Lamb. Tony Pollard looked very good. He is running back 1 in Dallas as far as I'm concerned. If they want to keep starting Zeke and giving Zeke running back 1 carries, they can do that at their own peril. But Tony Pollard is the guy. I don't think that's debatable at this point. He played exceptional. But defensively, you're playing against a Packers offense that has yet to score 30 points all season long. They've been plagued with drops. Receivers have struggled to get open, and you just gave up the first game of 30 or more points from a Green Bay Packers offense this season. Some concerning signs from Dallas for sure. I would be very, very worried with the way that team is being coached. They're heavily penalized. They looked very undisciplined on Sunday. Their penalties were costly as they would get drives going and get holding penalties that pulled them back as well. So a lot of things going on. with Dallas and Green Bay. Green Bay's got a big game in just 2 nights, this Thursday night at Lambeau once again versus the Titans. Another must-win game for them. They got to keep winning if they want a chance to push themselves into the playoffs. Right now, 2 games back from the 7th seed. And Dallas, they're in the playoffs right now. The NFC East is looking fantastic right now. They're in 3rd place in the division, and they'll likely be able to get in that 1st to 2nd place. If they can beat Philly, it'll get very, very interesting because Philly just had a bad game. Jalen Hurts looked very good last night, but that's about the only thing there is to write home about. The Philadelphia Eagles rushing defense struggled greatly, missing some guys, so they got to get healthy and get things figured out there to keep their games going the way they want to. Obviously, an 8-game win streak before dropping one against Washington, but that was a big game to drop, a divisional game against a team that's fighting for their lives in Washington. Washington sits at 500, just outside the playoffs right now. So a lot of fun stuff happening in the NFL right now. And, of course, I got to touch base on the Bills-Vikings game. That was an exceptional game.
Kirk Cousins back to throw on 4th and 18. He's given time. He wants Jefferson. Climbs the ladder. Oh, my goodness! Justin Jefferson.
I will be sure to get around to that game in a coming video as well. This game, I wanted to focus on the Packers Cowboys game because that is the game I was at this weekend. Truly exciting game. I'm so happy I went. It was a fantastic time. Lambeau Field is awesome. I highly recommend if you get the opportunity to go to an NFL game, make sure that you take that opportunity. You're able to make fantastic memories. Sitting in the stands, you got all those fans around you. It's a fantastic atmosphere. Tons and tons of fun. Really enjoyed this weekend. Around the corner coming up for you guys. Again, more videos, of course, coming out, as well as I'm getting a new setup working. We're working on cleaning out a room, and we're going to be setting stuff up, tables, chairs, where we can get guests in there and kind of have more in-depth conversations. It'll be a little bit of a different setup. I really like the vision we got going here for the Pocket Passer. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to check out my other content, I'm uploading more and more on Instagram and on TikTok at the Pocket Passer. Hit the bell icon and subscribe if you want to see more of what I'm doing here on YouTube. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see all of you in the next video.
Dallas Cowboys on! What happened on?